trying it again. Let's see how we're doing today with actually connecting to anybody's platforms. Let's see. Let's see how it works. We're live. Welcome to Fear-Free Living with Julie Lavender. I am little Julie Lavender from Bakersfield, California, and I'm in my barn at Dream Farm. This is the place where we do all kinds of live events downstairs and where we record Dream Farm Radio, which is a nationally syndicated jazz radio show on NPR type stations. And why should you even care about any of those things? It's because none of those things would have happened if I hadn't learned a whole lot of stuff about living fear-free. Ta-da!
I want to come say hi. I look like an egg, but I still want to say hi.
Hello, everyone. Let's see if we're actually...
Are we trending?
I doubt that we're trending.
It's okay.
But let's see
It takes time to trend.
if we're actually connecting. That would be super cool. Yesterday, when I was learning to do this all over again,
We used to do this every day for like half an hour.
I actually, let's see, guess what? We're online on YouTube, Twitch. Cloud Hub says we're online. Well, that's crazy. It says we're sending data to Facebook. This is DLive, and that's Twitter. Okay.
Twitter.
All right, let's see what's happening here. Let's see if we've got any
Viewers.
Oh, they're my favorite 3 people in the whole world. Where'd you see them?
Right there.
Because Roger. Oh, check that out. An eyeball and 3. Hello. Good to see you again. All right. Goodbye.
Okay, love you. Listen to her.
Go do
She's
your
smart.
chores.
She's wise.
Go do your chores. Okay.
Yes, mother.
The other thing I want to do is put in a little link, because for those of you who used to watch me before, let's hang on. We're going to do this. I actually took some time off and created a whole webinar to help people address some of the things that I like to teach on. So I'm going to give you a link so you guys can watch this free webinar. And then I'll be back here just a moment. Here we go, dashboard. There we go. Okay, so excellent. So this is Fear-Free Living. And for those of you who don't know, for about 2.5 years, I broadcasted every single day at 1:15. Strange time. Why? Because I was following another broadcaster who took up a lot of oxygen in the streaming space, but was a supporter of mine. And so I never wanted to step on his particular live stream. Now everything is kind of reorganized. Hey, hello from the world of Twitch. Things are reorganized. And I took some time off, and now I'm back to do short 15-minute fear-free living streams to give you nuggets to think about what would be possible for you if you were not afraid. Can you think of, so today, first of all, what you need to know is fear-free living is a life skill, okay? It's not that some people are afraid and some people aren't. Some people are traumatized and some people aren't. It's the reality that you have to be taught and mentored, and you have to develop the ability to live in a state that is not dominated by fear. You know, it talks about don't be afraid, be not afraid, it says in the Bible, which tells me that there's a state of being out of which people function. And that's true. It can be a state. And a state, what does a state describe? A state talks about the condition of your body and what would be happening in your body in a fear state. That's okay, Roger. In a fear state, what happens in the body? What happens to the adrenaline system? What happens to the circulatory system? What happens to the musculature in the body? What happens to the brain, eyesight, coordination? In a fear state, things change. In a state of peace, something changes. Something shifts. In a state of fear, something changes. So the idea of being afraid is something we want to change, is something that we can have authority over, is something that can be altered, the state of being. And just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to be it. Just because I feel unloved doesn't mean I have to be unloved, or am I simply unloved? Just because I feel ugly or incapable or whatever it is doesn't mean I am or I need to be those things. The reality is that being afraid is something we're commanded not to do. So why do you think God or anyone else would tell you not to be afraid if it's something you can't actually accomplish? I started to think deeply about that because I was a person who lived with daily panic and anxiety and very deep limiting fears that would have kept me from singing and performing because I had paralyzing stage fright. So everything that takes place in this barn downstairs, where we recorded radio shows that have gone all over the world, and we have live jazz events, and now Broadway in the barn events that my daughter does, and ministry events, and painting and sharing and mentoring and writing and you name it. None of that would have happened if I had continued to live confined by the state, the fear state. So I believe you can be taught not to live there. You can be taught the life skill of not being afraid. So that's what I'm going to talk about here. That's what I'm going to do briefly every day to give you a nugget. And one of the nuggets I want you to think about today is how your fear state is limiting you very significantly and specifically in ways that are costing you more than you might imagine. So what I want you to ask yourself today, what are the 3 things I would do if I wasn't afraid? I want you to take a minute and imagine that you're not afraid. Imagine you have no limitations whatsoever, that nothing gets to you, nothing freaks you out, nothing holds you back. What does your life look like then? What would you be doing? Who would you be talking to? What would you be risking? What would keep you busy? Where would your passion lie? Where would you go if you were completely 100% unafraid? And then I want to ask you what it is you're not doing now and how much that's really holding you back. The thing about life-limiting fear is that we talk ourselves into thinking that it really doesn't matter if we don't do the thing, because it's not really all that important. See, with me, I hid from dealing with stage fright because I was a busy mom. I was a creative mom. I was homeschooling, involved in the community, involved in spiritual things. Man, I could spiritualize away the limits that I had placed on myself and that fear had placed on me because, I'm good at so many things. It's important that I show up at work. It's important that I take care of the kids. It's important that I show up being the superhero mom, even though under that superhero mom is a person who's working really hard to avoid doing several things that are extremely threatening. So one of the things I want you to do is to ask yourself, what are the 3 things you would do if you weren't afraid? And then I want you to ask yourself if it's really true that you can't show up for those things, that it's too much, that you'll fail, that you're destined to live in a state that keeps you from going after those things. And I want you to take a little inventory because you have to understand what fear costs you before you're really willing to do what it takes to learn the life skill of not being controlled by it. And the good news is that you really don't have to be controlled by it. You really don't. There really is another way to live. And I teach a 10-week class, a deep dive into living fear-free. I actually changed the name of it from Stage Bright. It was a metaphor for people stepping fully in to the story of your life, taking center stage, into burnt out to blazing, I call it, because one of the most interesting things about the fear state and living afraid is that it will burn you out. You will find that the energy it takes for you to avoid showing up, for you to avoid what scares you, for you to avoid doing those 3 things, is a massive psychological and psychic drain, emotional drain on your energy. And what is the number one cause of burnout, my friends? It is the long, slow drain of all your vital energy to the point where you feel like you don't have anything else to throw, to give to it. You're done. Everything burns you out. Everything tires you out. Everything overwhelms you. You're just finished. You just want to give up. Some burnout, depression, and anxiety are closely related to one another. And I find that some of the most competent people in the world, professionals, or who have been professionals, are way more burned out than we want to admit because we're spending a lot of time and energy avoiding what's going on here because there's so many other things that we're competent to do in the world that we can hide behind. But there still tend to be those three things that if I really was honest, if I really was free, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be making the trains run on time for everybody else. I wouldn't be fixing the world. I'd be doing that crazy, amazing thing, that deep desire thing. And something about that's terrifying, but something about that holds the capacity to re-energize your entire life. So think about the three things you'd do if you were really fear-free. And then I'm going to put here in the comments a webinar you can watch. It's called Burnout to Blazing. And it's a webinar I designed, a free webinar for professionals who are feeling burned out. And it's a little bit different way that I hit the fear, limitation, self-sabotage, avoidance, procrastination thing in a way that a lot of people are not realizing that they're dealing with it. So I invite you to watch. You can click there and register to watch my free webinar, which is called Burnout to Blazing, to really deal with the reality of the fear state and how it drains energy and it keeps you from doing what you were created to do. So how was that? That was a 15-minute little romp in the woods talking about fear-free living. I'll be back tomorrow at 12:30. We'll talk a little bit more. And I look forward to seeing your comments and questions. And until then, I want you to think about this. You learned to be afraid, so therefore you can learn to be free.